60% of time a sales rep is not actually spent selling. Like, that's concerning, right?
That's a big number.
It's massive.
If you've got someone on 200,000, a good portion of that's admin. That's a massive wastage versus them actually bringing in revenue.
What's an acceptable number?
I would say 5%, to be honest. My goal is to get sellers' admin time down to 5%.
You wave this magic wand,
Yeah.
and the team's time in admin is down to 5%. Walk me through, what does their week look like now?
Map it out. Like, really know the difference between what your high performer does versus, say, one of your lower performing sales reps. So, Dave, if I think about a rep's time in sales, I've got the probably most offensive stat I've actually seen. I'll say the word offensive. 60% of time of a sales rep, is not actually spent selling. Like, that's concerning, right?
That's a big number.
It's massive.
But where's this time going?
So if I think about this comes from the recent Salesforce report, and it looks at where...
Is it 60% of the time because they're going to fill in Salesforce?
Because they don't have a good enough automation. Yeah. What are you telling your buyers? But with that, it comes from building prospecting lists, data entry. Like, if you think about the admin of a seller, there's a lot. But for me, I would think, where else could they be spending their time? And, how can we minimize that essentially? But I don't know. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I am surprised that it's that high. Like, I knew the number was decent, but I didn't think it was 60% of their time, right? Because, if you've got someone on, say, 200K, a good portion of that's put the admin, like, that's a big wastage.
Yeah.
There versus them actually bringing in revenue. Because this is all non-revenue generating activity, right? It's a tough one. It's a shocking one. And you multiply that if you got 5 or 10 sales reps or more, that's a massively expensive waste of time. How would you say, as someone that's managed, sales teams and many times before, how can you reduce this stat? Because it's always going to be a portion of their time. That doesn't matter what you do. There's going to be a portion goes towards admin side of things. But what's an acceptable number?
Look, I would say 5%, to be honest.
Ooh, okay.
My goal is to get sellers' admin time down to 5%. I don't think it will happen quickly, but this is why I think if sales leaders take a step back of asking your team to hit certain, metrics unnecessarily, like how many calls, how many of this, how many of that, instead actually look at, where can the entire team gain efficiencies? So really taking a view of revenue architecture. Like, I see, if you have a revenue engine, you treat it like an F1 car. You're always looking for that, little 1% improvement. A few things, like, as much as you can automate your data entry, definitely do that. As much as you can, build lists efficiently, have set cadences, really build playbooks so everyone knows the next step. I think that really helps. But if I was to think about a leader, I would kind of want to take a step back and be like, well, what is some of the internal bureaucracy that we need to get rid of to give my salespeople the opportunity to go out and hunt or go out and farm, like whatever your sort of role is, to be able to remove some of that noise. That's how I see, this is a leader's responsibility.
Do you see some of that time being put towards me having to prove myself to my manager that I'm doing XYZ activity, or is it more so, just filling in the CRM and building the lists and post-discovery call docs and all that sort of stuff? Would there be a bit of that?
Yeah, absolutely there would be. Yeah, you kind of need to prove your worth and prove what you're doing. But to me, I don't want to be the sort of leader that checks in on, have you done this? Have you done that? I want to see the outcome. To me, that's more important. Yes, I think that every organization needs to set a standard. Even Louis this week told me off about making sure I'm keeping the
I had to wipe my eyes. Is this Louis typing this?
Is this Louis doing that? I know, but I actually really loved that because, setting accountability of, making sure your CRM is as up to date as possible, because we're growing our team. We want to make sure that we set a standard. So yes, accountability, absolutely, we have to have a certain level of that, but don't just do admin for admin's sake is probably my point here. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? Because you're obviously our CEO. I would want to know, like, what would you think is acceptable and not acceptable?
From a percentage of time spent on admin?
Yeah.
Look, I probably wouldn't have gone as aggressive as 5%. I would have said 10, 15%, okay, I'm cool with that. But let me throw the question back to you as our CRO, right? You've waved this magic wand. You've waved this magic wand, and the team's time in admin is down to 5%. Walk me through, what does their week look like now?
Pardon the interruption. I'm Luigi, one of the co-hosts here at Revenue Leaders. You'll notice we don't run sponsors or ads on Revenue Leaders.
This show is free. Our goal is to help you grow revenue and build your sales system that you can rely on. We do have a favour to ask though.
If this episode gives you one clear idea that you can use, do these 2 things. First, share it with one person, a founder, a revenue leader, or a rep who wants to grow their business. Just one. That's how the show grows.
Second, grab free access to our vault over at coachpilot.com/vault. Inside, you'll get the frameworks, templates, and short courses we use with clients to help them scale pipeline and increase win rates.
So the deal is simple. If you get value, share the episode with one person and go to coachpilot.com/vault to get the tools to put this into action. All right, let's get back to it. I think a lot of that time should be working with our clients or prospective clients. So a great example of this is to be able to create and curate moments for prospects. And what do I mean by that? There will be time block calls, cold calling. So making sure that we're actually talking, to the humans that we're going to help support. I would be looking at this from a thought leadership perspective. How much can we get out in the market on webinars, events? How can we be sharing our insights, our value? I would be making sure that we're, getting full circle insights from our customers, what's working, what's not, how can we improve, feeding that back to the product team. I don't see those things as admin. I see that as value, because ultimately we have a goal of creating a product that our clients absolutely love. So it would be more making sure that everything that we do is centered around that goal. And then obviously outcomes, so making sure that, we're creating those moments where we're pushing deals through the pipeline in an incredibly healthy and efficient way. I don't want deals in pipe at certain stages that isn't factual. So, getting really, really good on our discovery, getting exceptionally good around unpacking and diagnosing client problems. Those are the sort of things that I want my sellers doing. There will be obviously necessary things. So yeah, I'm probably a bit too harsh on the 5%, just knowing how much it takes to build really good prospecting lists and personalization. But I think that as much as we can kind of reduce that, so then it's the human parts of selling that I think, one, build confidence of our team, but two, create moments for our clients essentially.
Yeah, I love that.
So more of that.
And look, it's effectively, without the shameless plug, why we're building what we're building.
Yeah.
Right? We want to get as close to that 5% of admin time down as much as possible through automation, through providing all those insights that the individual salesperson needs, from being on their calls to doing all that admin work for them as much as possible, right?
So here's the thing on that as well, is that if you also are a seller and you don't know your next step, you are actually just going to spend more time where you are comfortable. And if you know how to do data entry, but you don't know how to have a difficult conversation with a client, then you're going to do the data entry. So what you're saying there as well, in terms of what we're building, having, I guess, that opportunity to know your next step will actually give you more focus. It will, I personally think, just naturally, if you open up your computer, see Coach Pilot and be like, this is my next step on this deal and this is what I have to do, it will actually reduce some of that administrative noise because you're not avoiding anything. You know very, very clear what that should be.
Yeah, I love that. And look, what's one bit of advice or guidance you can give a VP of sales, a manager, without having to buy another tool, right now that they could, start their progress to get towards that 5%? What's one thing they could do?
map it out, like really know the difference between what your high performer does versus, say, one of your, lower performing sales reps. I think that you could easily tell there what can be taken off that person or how to kind of change their behaviors. Because if I look at someone like Luigi, for example, and I am going to toot his horn here, but he is so focused on sales. He actually drops the admin. Sometimes he doesn't respond to us because he's so focused on the client and delivering to the client. And I love that. But that comes from a level of confidence. It comes from a level of capability. So if you know what your most capable sellers can do and how they do it, then that should be able to help you reduce the noise on those underperforming ones. And not saying that, it's only the underperforming ones that focus on admin, but you can tell what should be prioritized and what shouldn't ultimately.
Yeah, no, I would argue, not argue against that, but it's like a high performer, low performer, they have their admin, they need to have their admin side done right. Right? Because it empowers them enables them to spend more time with customers, more time prospecting, because they know that they've got, the fundamentals down in place. We spoke about then one thing, that you can do without buying another tool and something that you can do. But if you could wave your, a bit of another magic wand, right? If we're pulling that one out again, what's one thing where you could leverage a bit of AI to help you, with this admin side of things? What would you look at doing first?
Oh, okay. So I think this comes down to our current piece that we're investigating is that the biggest part that I can't seem to automate, you can't seem to automate, Louis, we've got ideas of how to do it, is that list build for ultimate personalization. There's still a lot of time in terms of— It's a hard one. Yeah, you've got from going from your ICP to making sure you've got the right buyer persona to then making sure you've got the data of that persona. Then it looks at, well, what's the trigger? Based on that trigger, what should the message be and when? What should the cadence be? So I think that part, because if I think about, when we go into action, is that every morning we want to do cold call blocks. We want to be able to just pick up the phone and be able to smash out an hour's worth of calls, for example, which means that we need an hour's worth of a list every morning. So then how do we kind of fill that out? So ultimately, if I was to maybe wave a magic wand for me, that would be because that's something we're facing.
Yeah.
But I think as well, if we think about what's happening in terms of the noise in the market, and there's just so much email, you just put on a list and it's generic, and we've spoken about this countless times on our podcast. But if that part can be more curated and personalized, then I actually think noise will reduce in the market because people will actually find easier ways and better ways to be able to talk to their, ultimate prospect as well.